corruption in big pharma. And then there's academic dialogue. We have seen an unprecedented suppression of academic dialogue, which is pivotal to honest academic-based medicine. Why are they suppressing physicians that are ethical? Like Dr. Patrick Phillips, Dr. Mark Trozzi, Dr. Hoff. Did you know that Dr. Byron Bridle was called upon? Yes, give him a hand. Dr. Byron, a viral immunologist, was called as an expert witness to get an injunction against the corrupt extortion for healthcare workers to get a vaccine, an experiment. I say vaccine very loosely, an experimental injection. He came with 200 pages, 400 references. And what did government have? They had a paid epidemiologist by the name of Dr. Juni, and Dr. Bridle, the giant scientist, looked at Dr. Juni's evidence and he said it's absolutely naked. There's no science. The emperor has no clothes, ladies and gentlemen. And then finally, informed consent. How can you have coercion and extortion and say that you have an informed consent? We all know that's impossible. That's absolutely impossible. So ladies and gentlemen, you know what happened with the story? The emperor has no clothes. He went out in public, proudly, nakedly. And all the people, because they've been brainwashed to thinking you can't say he's naked because that makes you a peasant. If you're sophisticated, you look the other way, you won't see his nudity if you're sophisticated. But the good news is this. There were children there that saw the emperor and they said the emperor has no clothes. He has no clothes, look at him. And you know the good news is people started saying, yeah, actually he has no clothes. It's true. The 10% rule is encouraging, ladies and gentlemen. 10% of the people speaking the truth with love, consistently, can change the entire groupthink. Because the tyrants have no science, and it's obvious, and they're naked. They're absolutely naked. So speak the truth and support one another. Because I know some of you are hurting. I was speaking to a psychiatrist just before coming on here. She says she's never seen so many people with anxiety, with depression, with attempted suicide, and sadly, suicide. Speak the truth, support one another. That is the action point, ladies and gentlemen. And I would be honored to sign this book for you at $20 only. If you buy it online, believe it or not, it's $18 to ship it because of gas prices or corruption. All right. So, anyways, this is important to equip yourself with truth. That's very important. Now, I have the honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you the Canadian hero. He drove 5.5 hours to get here. He's a family physician and emergency physician that's been speaking the truth. His conscience is more important than the regulations of the corrupt college that have been persecuting him, that have been targeting him. Why? Because he's using early treatment that's been effective, like ivermectin. He has been compassionate toward people and giving people exemptions from the experiment. And for that, he's paid a price. The college has brought him before the media. They're investigating him. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a true Canadian hero, a physician with a conscience. I want you to give Dr. Patrick Phillips a warm welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's honestly an amazing honor to be proud. Hi, I just want to take a second of your time to say, guys, that this isn't a place to sell things, right? You're here to speak from your heart, speak for what we believe in, not to sell things, guys, okay? I grew up in...
Friends, stand up for our kids. Because last year we have more side effects like the previous 30 years. Myocarditis, autism.
Как говорят? Что там у них за внутренний конфликт вдруг?
Is that back on? Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Everyone is going to have a chance to talk who wants to talk. Right now, the doctor is speaking, and we're going to continue with that, and then you can say what you have to say, okay? All right. Perfect. That's great. Back to the doctor.
Hold on to it this time. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, it's an incredible honor to be here in front of all of you guys. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Patrick Phillips. I'm a family and emergency doc up in Englehart, which is about 5.5 hours north of here. Yeah, so I first got into this mess, I guess, back in the fall of 2020. When all this began, I have to say I was probably like most of the physicians in this city. I was scared. I was buying into the propaganda. I was seeing the bodies piling up in Italy and New York City that we now know was caused by doctors. But I was scared at that time. But I started to pay attention to things, and when it came to the fall of 2020, I started to notice some very serious harms happening to the patients in my community. From missed cancer diagnosis, like patient after patient coming in, and I'm diagnosing them in the emergency department with metastatic cancer because they missed their cancer screenings, they were switched to telemedicine, and giant tumors on their back were not even noticed and treated as back pain. All the way to a string of suicidality in children that I had never seen before during the height of the second lockdown. I've seen suicidal child from time to time, but this was child after child, even from the age of 8, coming in with their parents because they're suicidal. And inevitably, the common denominator was those parents were following the public health guidelines and keeping their children at home, locked up, with no friends. And all of this was going on at a time where the Ontario Medical Association was putting out ads in papers, on social media, saying Ontario's doctors are calling for harsher lockdowns to control the pandemic. And I'm like, you didn't even ask us. Like, they're speaking for all physicians when I'm clearly seeing the patients in my community, and that's just the tip of the iceberg that I mentioned, were being seriously harmed from these public health measures, and there was no discussion around it. So I have to say this, I was seeing all this, and it was eating away at my conscience. And so it built up to a point, and around Christmas time of 2020, I knew I couldn't live with myself while I was seeing our country destroyed, while I was seeing the health of my patients being destroyed with telemedicine and these public health measures. And so I knew I needed to speak out. And that's something that's really scary as a physician. You go through 10 years at least of training. You'll rack up. I had probably about $200,000 worth of debt at that time, and it's scary because not only are you at risk of losing your career, but when your identity is so built up into a profession like medicine, you feel like you're at risk of losing who you are. And I say that actually, looking back now, as an incredibly positive thing, because I have learned so much through taking that risk. And as much as I have been kind of attacked on many sides, from the CPSO, from my hospital, from other physicians, I would never go back. And I have to say, this whole thing has been a roller coaster. From beginning my journey kind of speaking out about these things, I have had a lot of freakouts, right? There's been times where I've been kind of filled with courage, and other times where I've been filled with despair. But one thing that I've learned is the value of going inward. During this process, I've developed a habit of meditation where I've gone inward and processed a lot of the pain that I've realized is going on in the world too. And one lesson that I've learned that I want to encourage people to pick up is this practice of going inward. Because when we let go of who we think we are, when we let go of that fear, when we let go of our expectations or what we want for our life, we actually open ourselves up to incredible power. And so I've learned so much through this, because I've spoken out on a number of things, and if you want to find my videos, a lot of them over social media. I'm all over Twitter too, where you can see like a lot about the science. But it started with the lockdowns, but I also saw so many adverse events from the vaccines, and when I reported those, as I'm legally obligated to do, to public health, all of my adverse event reports were rejected, and I was actually kind of shocked. But my public health officer actually wrote me a letter to tell me that they were rejected, and I knew that I couldn't just stand by silently while this is happening. People need informed consent around these vaccines. I was seeing patients with strokes, heart attacks, massive heart attacks within days of the vaccine, hemorrhagic stroke in people with no other health conditions, and a stroke in a 30-year-old. And I'm like, this is not okay. So I decided to go public with that as well. And and the backlash is very real. And so my public health officer actually took my reports and actually reported me to the CPSO. And so I'm actually under investigation by the College of Physicians for reporting adverse events, among many other things. But what I've learned from this actually is that was an incredibly painful experience, and it's very tempting to get caught up in the anger, in the rage, and the fear of what's going to happen to you when these people come after you. I have been very enraged by these things, but one thing that I've learned from going inward is that when you're able to raise your vibration, to forgive people for these things, that the power is actually, you open yourself up to so much more incredible power. I mean, physicians, they end their lives over things like this. But when you're able to forgive, when you're able to open up to what truly matters, you raise the vibration, and that's something that's incredibly contagious. When you come from a place of love, when you come from a place of truth, of wanting what's best for everybody around you, including public health, including Doug Ford, including these people who are perpetrating harm on our society and on children now. It's that vibration that moves mountains. It's that vibration that changes the world. And I'm seeing it. I just came just a few days ago from a meeting in Sudbury where I met with so many healthcare workers who have all been fired. And the vibration in that room was so inspiring. They are not full of anger. We came together and we're coming up with creative ideas to provide healthcare to the people. So like, there's so many initiatives coming down the road. I'm like, through doing all this, I've connected with so many people in my community who have taken their children out of school. They said, over my dead body, will you vaccinate my child? They have started establishing their own homeschool groups where their children are free, they're playing freely without masks and living normal childhoods. And it's incredible. I've connected with physicians across Canada and across the world. We've formed the Canadian COVID Care Alliance, among other groups. There is a COVID treatment clinic, actually, a telemedicine clinic that we're establishing that's going to provide early outpatient treatments to patients all across Canada. And we're already up and running. We're just working on expanding it. So there are incredible things, but my big takeaway for everybody is I really encourage everybody daily to go inward, to meditate, connect with your higher self, because it's from that place that we really change the world. You'll be inspired to take creative action, and it's that energy that allows you to get through what's coming. Things are going to get crazy, things are going to get worse on some other level, but we're in the midst of we're in the Great Awakening, and I think that's what's going to change the world. So we're not fighting against something, we're going to create a better world here. Okay?
Thank you very much, Dr. Phillips. It's always nice to see a nice face, a new face.